Mother dies. During childbirth, and baby embraces her. What happens next will surprise you. When Nicole became pregnant with her second child, everything was going as expected. But as she went into labor, the situation quickly took a turn for the worse. She was rushed to the operating room in a race against time, doctors fighting to save both her and the baby. The tension in the air, everyone's hearts pounding, and when there seemed to be no more hope, her husband did something unbelievable. Want to find out what Eric did? Then keep watching and get ready to be moved by this story of courage and love. Don't forget to leave your comment about what touched you the most and to subscribe to our channel. On that sunny spring morning, Eric's heart was filled with joy and anticipation. He and Nicole, his beloved wife, were about to welcome their second child, a baby girl who had not yet been named. It was a dream come true for the family, especially for Matt, the older son, who could hardly contain his excitement about having a little sister to play with. The days leading up to the birth were filled with preparations and anxiety. The baby girl's room was filled with colorful clothes, toys, and a beautiful crib, all carefully chosen by Nicole, who had a special eye for details. Eric, on the other hand, busied himself with ensuring that everything was perfect, even though the fear of the unknown lurked in the back of his mind. Eric and Nicole met in college, in a moment he described as the best hit of his life. It was during a campus training session that he first spotted Nicole, a beautiful woman who seemed to light up the field with her smile. The connection was instant, as if destiny was charting their paths at that very moment. The wedding ceremony was simple and elegant, held a year after Nicole's graduation. Eric, who had been a talented baseball player in college, traded the bat for a calculator as an engineer but never stopped loving the sport. And now, with the arrival of a new member in the family, he already dreamed of teaching her how to play baseball, like a true heir to the love for the sport and the special connection he and Nicole shared. The discovery of the baby's gender was a special moment, with Nicole asking the doctor to keep it a secret and organizing a gender reveal party for friends and family. Eric's heart nearly stopped when the purple and pink balloons rose to the ceiling, indicating it was a girl. He embraced his wife and son, feeling an overwhelming happiness that overflowed into laughter and tears of joy. But joy turned into fear and despair in the penultimate week of pregnancy, when Nicole woke up with contractions and a slight dizziness. What seemed to be just a routine procedure at the hospital quickly turned into a race against time, with Nicole fainting in front of the doctor and Eric feeling the ground open beneath his feet. Nicole's heart rate dropped and her blood pressure plummeted. Eric watched helplessly, his heart squeezed with anguish as the doctors struggled to understand what was happening. Desperation hung in the air as Nicole and the baby's lives seemed to hang by a thread. While the doctor and nurses tried to grasp the situation, despair settled in the room. Nicole was pale with no apparent vital signs, while the baby also showed concerning signs. The medical team's agile hands moved frantically, performing CPR and administering shocks to try to revive her. Eric watched it all, his heart clenched with anguish, unable to do anything but pray for a miracle. The sound of medical equipment echoed through the room, mixing with the low, weak cries of the baby, who seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. The doctor looked at Eric with a somber expression, her eyes conveying news he feared to hear. She approached slowly and held his hand, preparing him for the worst. Eric felt a lump in his throat and his whole body tense, as if he were in a nightmare from which he couldn't wake up. Then came the final blow. With a deathly silence in the room, the machine emitted a sharp, steady sound, the sound of Nicole's heart stopping. The noise echoed down the maternity ward corridor, leaving everyone stunned. Eric felt like the world was crumbling around him, shock and pain enveloping him like a wave. The doctor looked at the team, her face serious and determined. "Time of death, 10:20, she declared, the words sounding like a final blow to Eric's heart. Desperation and pain were palpable in the air as everyone there processed the loss of Nicole. Imagine yourself in this situation. How would you react? Write in the comments the most difficult moment you have ever had to go through. Eric found himself paralyzed, unable to believe what had just happened. He looked at the body of his beloved wife, now so quiet and still in the bed, and felt a deep emptiness settle in his chest. The world around him seemed blurry and distant as he tried to process the terrible reality that Nicole was gone. He clung to the wall, struggling to find some stability amidst the chaos. Tears streamed down his face as he silently prayed, begging for a miracle. Meanwhile, in the operating room, the pediatric doctors were fighting to save the baby. The tension was palpable, and Eric felt as if he were being crushed under the weight of the world. He called his family and friends, asking them to come immediately to the maternity ward. They all gathered in the waiting room, joining hands in prayer and sending positive thoughts to the baby. The doctors and nurses moved frantically around the tiny baby, whose vital signs were also declining. The baby seemed so fragile and defenseless on that surgical table, her tiny lungs struggling to breathe and her little heart beating weakly and irregularly. The pediatric doctor led the team with precision and determination, her voice echoing in the room as she gave quick and precise orders. "We need another shock, quickly," she commanded, as one of the nurses prepared the defibrillator. Meanwhile, Eric was in the waiting room, his heart squeezed with anguish as his daughter fought for her life. The sound of medical equipment was deafening, the constant beeping of monitors mixing with the sound of resuscitation machines. The tension was almost palpable in the air, everyone present knowing that every second was crucial. The doctors continued to administer CPR to the tiny baby, their agile and experienced hands pressing on the small chest of that innocent little being. Eric felt powerless on the outside, his hands clenched into fists, wishing he could do something to help. The determination of the medical team was unwavering. They would not give up, not while there was a chance to save that little girl. "We're going to keep trying. We can't lose this battle," said the doctor, renewing the hope of everyone there. The minutes seemed like hours as the team fought to bring the baby back to life. Eric held his breath, his heart beating so hard it felt like it was about to burst out of his chest. He closed his eyes for a moment, offering a silent prayer that his daughter could overcome this critical moment. And then, finally, came the moment everyone there desperately awaited. The sound of crying echoed through the hospital, like a melody of hope and life. The doctors paused for a moment, their faces lighting up with smiles of relief and joy. Eric felt tears streaming down his face, an indescribable mix of gratitude and happiness engulfing his being. The little baby had won the battle for life, her strong and vigorous cry announcing her triumphant arrival into the world. The operating room was filled with a sense of joy and relief as the medical team carefully wrapped the baby in a warm blanket and placed her into Eric's emotional arms. He held his daughter close, feeling the miracle of life pulsating in his hands. She was a true miracle, a symbol of hope and renewal amidst chaos and despair. Eric looked down at his daughter, his eyes shining with love and gratitude. "Welcome to the world, my love," he whispered, his heart overflowing with emotion. He looked at the little one in his arms and knew, without hesitation, what her name would be: Grace. And so, after a long and harrowing battle, little Grace had emerged victorious. She was a warrior, a survivor, and Eric vowed to himself that he would do everything to protect her and love her forever. Life had given that baby a second chance. As he held his daughter, Eric couldn't help but feel the lingering fear. The uncertainty of the future weighed heavily on his chest. His wife was gone. What would become of the children without her? Could he care for, educate, and love them as Nicole would have? Suddenly, a movement caught his attention. He looked towards the room where Nicole's body lay, and he noticed that the medical team was still fighting to revive her. But how? Hadn't the lead doctor declared her dead? A glimmer of hope ignited in his chest, and he decided to act. What do you think Eric decided to do? Comment below what you would do. With determined steps, he made his way to the room and approached the bed where Nicole lay. In a desperate gesture, he whispered in her ear, "Grace is here, my love. She is beautiful like you. Please don't give up." Carefully, he placed little Grace next to Nicole's head, holding her hand with Nicole's. Grace, with her innocent and curious eyes, gently touched her mother's face. Eric then prayed and pleaded, "I know this is more than I can bear, and maybe it's more than I can ask for. Maybe this means there is a plan for me and a purpose in all of this. That's what I'll trust in. Just let me hold my wife one more time. That's all I ask." It was like a breath of life in the silent and tense room. Eric felt his heart beating irregularly, waiting for some sign of response from Nicole. And then it happened. A subtle, almost imperceptible movement. Nicole lightly moved her hand, as if responding to her daughter's touch. Eric held his breath, unable to believe what he was seeing. And then, a sigh. A faint sigh, but one that filled Eric's heart with hope and relief. The medical team also noticed the sign of life and redoubled their efforts. They didn't give up, not while there was a chance to bring Nicole back. And incredibly, she responded to the last resuscitation attempt. Her breathing returned, weak but present. Nicole was alive, fighting for her life. Eric felt tears of relief streaming down his face. He looked at his daughter in his arms, a trembling smile forming on his lips. A renewed breath of hope filled his lungs. In the days that followed, Nicole slowly recovered and had to stay away from her baby until she was fully recovered. Every day was a battle, but she didn't give up because she had her family by her side, giving her strength to continue. Eric never left their side, caring for and loving them like never before. Matt, the older brother, finally got to meet his long-awaited little sister, and the family was complete in a way they could never have imagined. And so, after a long journey of pain, struggle, and miracles, Eric, Nicole, Matt, and Grace finally were able to return home together. Where there was once fear and uncertainty, now love and hope reigned. They knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but they were united and strong, ready to face any challenge that came their way. And so ends the story of this family, a tale of love, courage, and faith. A story that reminds us that even in the darkest moments, there is always a light at the end of the tunnel, and that with love and hope, we can overcome any obstacle that life presents us. May this family be an example to all of us of how true love can conquer even the most terrible of adversities. What did you think of the story of this beautiful family? Have you ever experienced a miracle? Share with us in the comments below. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any stories. Until the next video.